Welcome to DCS Pathways. I'm Kevin Patton, Pathways Counselor for Dublin City Schools. Choosing courses and planning for life after high school can feel overwhelming. The ideas and resources shared here are intended to help students and families with this important process. This episode features a conversation with Liz Literal. Liz graduated from Dublin City Schools in 2010. She has spent the last decade of her career in various roles involving education and nonprofit organizations. Liz is a former English teacher and currently serves as the program manager for Cool Tech Girls, and she's also the president and co-founder of Students for Civic Impact. Be sure to check out the episode description and click on the links to learn about how to get involved with these great organizations. Liz, thank you so much for joining me. I know you've recently come back to Ohio after living in other states over the past year since your graduation, but really happy to have you here on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Kevin. I appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely. So I had an opportunity to read through some things that you shared about what you've been doing since graduation. And I think it's really neat that you describe yourself as an educational nonprofit leader who empowers students to pursue their passions and make a difference in the world. And I know you've found many ways to do that since you've left Dublin City Schools. So I'd love for you to just start by highlighting some of the things you're doing right now in that area.
So right now I work for Cool Tech Girls as an independent contractor. I'm the program manager, and that program is all about empowering girls having more confidence and public speaking skills as they are also learning science, technology, engineering, and math. So we have a program called Techno Fashion through one of our biggest partners, PPG, and through that they get to learn how sewing and fashion connect with lights and circuitry and all kinds of fun things. We are also working on developing a new program in technology. It's going to be probably called Techno Challenge, working on that grant proposal right now. And that is all about working with students and for folks with disabilities or life impacting illnesses. So we want to have students be creative and come up with some way to help people. Could be themselves, it could be like their community that they belong to based on their diagnosis or their differences, and just give back to the community and do something that makes a difference. So that's one that I'm really excited about. I think empowering girls, to get into fields that are currently more male dominated is really important because men and women have different skill sets in some ways. And I think having more representation, having more parity in any field is important for, having more creative and groundbreaking ideas come through, more collaboration, and positive exchanges going on. So that's one thing. And then another one is I co-founded Students for Civic Impact, which is a growth from Junior State of America, which I was deeply involved in high school and since high school on the staff side of things. JSA, as you may know it, recently closed in August and had 90 years of super impactful programming in the summer and in the school year. And I and another colleague really didn't want that to just disappear. And so we founded Students for Civic Impact to continue with some of that legacy, especially the culture bringing from other countries and bringing students together from other states to a program. This year we're doing online as we seek funding and seek donations. We're also waiting on our nonprofit status as a 501c3 nonpartisan organization from the IRS. So we're waiting on that. But we are registered in Ohio as a charity and a nonprofit here. And we've got our spring webinar series coming up with 4 different professors, 4 different topics, all on like current events, free speech, macroeconomics. So if students in high school like politics, they're going to love these 4 professors who have worked with us for many years with JSA and now with our new organization. That is up on studentsforcivicimpact.org.
That's awesome. And I was super sad to see that JSA had decided not to move forward. And I'm sure that was an amazingly difficult decision for them and so heartbreaking for people like you who dedicated so many years of just receiving great experiences from it, but also putting time and energy into making a difference in the communities and to the world that they provided those opportunities for. So
Yeah.
I'm so thankful that you and your co-founder decided to take it upon yourselves to continue that legacy in your own way. And now you can kind of find ways to make it your own and
Yeah.
do things that maybe weren't happening in the past. So I think this is a really cool opportunity. And I love that you're already finding ways to connect students with professors who can hopefully get them excited about different areas of government and politics if that's something that they could see themselves going into. So
Definitely.
very, very cool. So I know you mentioned that they can get involved in that webinar series.
Mhm.
And does Cool Tech Girls also have an opportunity coming up in April that students might want to know about?
We have an event with Cardinal Health. Cardinal Health has generously made us their partner in philanthropy. And so we are handling the registration fees for Technology Camp. It's April 25th to 26th. 25th is kind of an orientation evening, and then the 26th is going to be a full day, including a pizza lunch. And they get a t-shirt and they get to pick a project, one of 9 activities. Some of them are like creating arcade games, coding for their own website. There's one for a soundtrack creation. It's going to be really cool, depending on, which area you pick. There's definitely something for everyone at that, and how technology relates to, other aspects of life.
That's awesome. And I'll be sure to include links to how to sign up for all of these great things that you're promoting. I
And
think this
both
is
of
so
these
cool.
start at like $20 for the tech camp. That's for middle school and high school girls exclusively. And then, but we do have other programs that are not just for girls with Cool Tech Girls. And then my civics organization, that is just for current high school students, and that's open to everybody, regardless of gender.
That's awesome. No, I think that I love getting opportunities like this out there, and I hope some students take
Yeah,
advantage of them. It's
definitely.
amazing. So I know you've been out of high school since 2010, so you've had an opportunity to not only go through multiple post-secondary education opportunities, you've got a bachelor's degree, you've got a master's degree, you've got other certifications. I'd love for you to talk about some of the earlier professional experiences that you've had that you feel like prepared you for the nonprofit leadership roles that you're doing today.
I mean, JSA is a huge part of my journey, as we've already talked about. I was an RA for the program in college, and I think even just being a high school leader was a huge kind of job experience for me. I did that like a job. I did a study hall where I really took the study hall my senior year to work on JSA and not just my classes. So I was, working on outreach, working on marketing, working on programming, and then doing that in college and seeing that along the way and growing with that organization as a returning RA after my first year teaching, and then as a director, and just seeing the different sides of the same organization, I think was really, really cool and had a lot of transferable skills. So in 2011, that was the first time I RA'd with them, and that was really an all-encompassing role. You're dealing with social emotional skills with students in high school at the program. You're doing academic support. It's really one of the ways where I figured out I wanted to teach, because I loved that mentoring aspect of that role. I also really liked the programming side of things and being organized and talking with guest speakers and inviting people in. So like as a teacher, I was able to bring in people into our school to do career talks like this and just make connections to other things. There are organizations like JSA still out there. I think finding something that you can grow with is really cool, and I'm really grateful for that. I also worked for Gap Inc. for 6 years, starting in high school. I think I was 15, and my friends would drive me to like the Sun Center location of Old Navy. It's still there, and I haven't been back, but it was a great first job. It taught me a lot of confidence, talking with strangers, and having a schedule, sticking to that, and understanding kind of like corporate rules and trainings and things like that. I did that in high school. I did that in undergrad out in Iowa, and then in grad school as well out in Denver. So I had growth with that organization as well, and I'm very grateful for seeing different managers and having different roles and responsibilities. You're in the fitting room, you're at the cash register, so many different things. And at one point in college, I thought that I would actually stay with Gap Inc. for the long haul and like be a manager, because it was just such a great work environment for me. We made it fun, and so there's just so many routes. But I definitely would encourage students to find organizations where or companies where they can grow and learn different skills. I love that about my experience.
No, I think that's awesome. And there are so many opportunities. I always say all the time how spoiled we are in Dublin to have so many different industries and different places for students to go and get that first job and to
Mhm.
just see what it's like to be an employee and to your point, recognize different management styles and the ones that are great and that are there to help you grow are the ones you want to stick with. But there are times you might not have the best manager, and
Totally.
you either figure out how to manage that difficult relationship, or if it seems to be just not a good fit, or you don't feel that you're respected in the way that employees deserve to be respected, then you don't have to stay there. And there's other opportunities to follow through on. So I think to your point, to be able to stick with an organization, whether it's going to be for your career or not, the benefits of just being there for that period of time and the
Yeah.
skills you develop and the different roles that they've given you the opportunity to try are invaluable.
Yeah, I think perseverance is really important. I think having some grit is a critical life skill, and not I think you mentioned something really great is like knowing when to leave. I think that is important. I think Dublin also taught me that. I did AP classes and IB classes, and taking care of your physical and your mental health, and not going beyond what you really should or can do on a practical level. I think, yeah, push yourself, but also know when it might be enough.
I think that's a great message. And I've had many conversations with students over the years like that when I'm a little nervous maybe about what they're signing up for. I never want to discourage someone from challenging
Yeah.
themselves, but I also think sometimes students do it because they feel like that's what colleges expect them to do or
Mhm.
what their friends seem to be doing
Right.
and they want to keep up versus really
Yeah.
being thoughtful about, well, what do I want to make sure I have time for in my life? And what are the things outside of school that
Mhm.
I would potentially be
Giving up.
no longer, yeah, giving up or sacrificing, and is that worth it to me? And I think in a lot of cases, colleges don't want to see that you're taking the hardest class in every subject area. They want to see that you're a well-rounded person who not only is able to be successful in one or two, maybe three difficult
Mhm.
classes, but what are you doing to contribute to your school and your community?
Yeah.
And do you have a job? And what
Yeah.
kind of leadership roles are you taking on? Like those things matter just as much, I would argue.
I remember, I think it was when I was in high school and I was in a library event with Stanford University. Stanford was my dream for a long time, and I'm blessed to have spent 5 summers there working with JSA or going to classes there with JSA. And I remember the recruiter saying that we don't want a well-rounded person per se, we want a well-rounded student body. And I've heard that from multiple college recruiters over the years, whether it's my alma mater at Cornell College or just other snippets that I hear or see in articles. I do think it's important to, like, as we were talking about earlier today, like pursuing a wide range of interests and learning what excites you and learning what you're good at, and that can lead to something, and just being open to a lot of different things. I think seeing those connections between disciplines, right, it's all very exciting. But then if you do find your passion, like, there's no shame in like focusing on that, right? Like, that is super cool too, when you can be a leader, an entrepreneur or something like in high school for something that you really care about. You're consistently, like the stage manager on the drama club or in the drama classes. Like, that is a great thing. I think that people want to see, like, you can find your thing, but explore too.
No, I agree. I think they would much rather you really stick to and dig into a few areas of
Mhm.
just really what really matters to you versus trying to be that resume builder who just
Yeah.
goes out and tries to collect as
Yeah.
many
Don't do it for
activities
the
and events.
badges. Don't do it for
Exactly.
the
No,
accolades. Really, it's
that's right.
obvious.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's not an authentic way to live, and it's
Yeah.
not what those places are looking for. So I
Yeah.
think that's a
And it's
great thing to
not sustainable. Like, you can't
correct.
you can't do that in life. So if your heart's not in it, reflect on what your heart would prefer.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Well, another thing that I've learned through these alumni interviews is just how nonlinear most people's paths are. And I think you really are a great example of somebody who has taken advantage of the opportunities that have been presented to you. You've not allowed yourself to get stuck in an area if you didn't feel like that's where you needed to be. I think you've welcomed new challenges. I would love to know, is that kind of the direction you saw yourself going after high school, or is this something you've learned about yourself as you've left and kind of navigated your professional path?
Yeah, I think it's kind of being a bit of a yes man kind of thing. Like, oh, that sounds like a cool opportunity. Yeah, I'd be good at that. Or, oh, I'd like to learn those skills. Yeah, you think I'd be good at it? Great, I believe you. I'll try it. I think it's a bit of that, and I think it's also, I don't know. It sounds so cliche, but like, when one door closes, another one opens, kind of thing. There's a little bit of serendipity in life, I think, and being open to the possibilities. One of my least favorite questions, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years or 10 years? And it's like, how cocky for someone to think that they know what's going to happen. I have a vision, I have values, and these are the possibilities I see, and this is what I'm working toward. And ultimately, like, I just want to be happy and make a difference. And so if I can do that in working for profit, if I can do it for nonprofit, if I can do it in these different ways, like, that's how I'm gonna do it. And I think the common thread with my jobs, I would say most of them, maybe like 95% of the jobs I've had, or the roles that I've had have been to work for some cause, whether it's the environment or for students, for a candidate, whatever it is. It's definitely something that I'm passionate about. I think, for me at least, when I'm passionate about something, I really throw myself into it. I feel like I get better results. And sometimes you're in a job where you have to fake it sometimes, but I think it's still teaching you something. You put on your customer service face, your voice, and that's okay too. You need to pay the bills. It's still teaching you something, and you can make it fun. Like when I was teaching in the classroom, like you need to find something that you can appreciate or that you can enjoy about this book or about this subject, because that's going to make you so much happier in life. Like you're not going to love everything that you do, but you need to find something about it that you do love and really expand on that, and that joy can grow, I think, even if it's not like necessarily the job that you want to be in forever or something. Appreciating the people that you work with is also really important, even if it's not the job that I necessarily went out to get. I'm so appreciative of all the great people I've worked with over the years. They can really change the trajectory of your career too.
Absolutely. And I would imagine that that's happened to you on multiple occasions as you've kind of gone from graduating high school up until now. You've had all these really unique and cool opportunities to lead and to be a part of different teams and organizations. And I think it's neat that you mentioned a lot of times what drives you is the cause behind whatever that organization is doing.
Yeah.
And I think it's neat that you've had a stint as a teacher and you've had stints as a tutor and then of course someone who is helping out with different political campaigns and people, somebody who's helped for the environmental causes that you've been out there working towards. So I think it's just neat for students to see you're allowed to have multiple interests. You don't have to ever pigeonhole yourself, and you have to create what feels right to you and don't feel that pressure from whether it's society or others to make you feel like you have to pick that one
Yeah.
thing that you're going to be the best at for the rest of your life. That's just not the way it works. So I love that your story represents that. So I know when you were in high school, you talked a lot about JSA and how much you enjoyed that. And I think it had influenced you to potentially want to maybe go into government as a judge or a policymaker or something along those lines. So in addition to JSA, back in your high school years, what were some of the other influencing factors that really led you to want to pursue those public service roles?
Oh gosh. I would say some of that started with like my 8th grade DC field trip. I was so inspired. I had been there when I was really young, but not really in my memory. So 8th grade field trip, I mean, seeing all the history, and I loved US government. I was amazing at US government. I think I had above 100% in 8th grade government or US history or whatever. It was a combination. Mrs. Bassett was my teacher. I love her. I channeled her as a teacher. She was my English and my social studies teacher, so we called them double dippers. So she really inspired me and supported me, I think, like to grow academically and to push myself, and I don't know, her scaffolding just amazing. Like I'm so grateful to have had her as a teacher. I'm gonna tear up. And then like other teachers like Mrs. Leahy, Amanda Leahy. I know she's not with Dublin City Schools now, but she was for a long time. I did news writing with her. I did speech and debate with her freshman year. I repeated debate again, I think sophomore year. So I had her pretty much all 4 years of high school. If I didn't have her in the classroom, I would still be with her in a study hall or with early release and like in her classroom. And like we cried when I needed to withdraw from one of her classes because I had to commit to my other activities and I had to commit to my IB classes. And she was just, I don't know, a great educator, and we're still in touch as well. So I think my teachers, inspired me, and we're very lucky in Dublin to have such good teachers.
I couldn't agree with you more. I've met some of the most incredible people that could be doing so many things professionally, and they chose to do this, and they love helping kids and just seeing them find those aha moments and proving to them they can do more than they thought they were capable of. So I think that's a great point.
I think another shout out would be to my fairy godmother from Scioto. She was the gifted and talented coordinator for several years for my freshman and sophomore year. Jane Salser, another person I'm still in touch with. She was how I found out that I tested for gifted and talented. I never knew. My mom hid it from me because she didn't want it to go to my head. But Mrs. Salser I don't know, she like saw something in me and she advocated for me. She helped me with knowing what kind of summer opportunities were out there at the different like Ohio universities. I studied at Shawnee State, I studied at Bowling Green, I studied at Ashland in the summers going into sophomore and junior year. And so I'm grateful for those like connections to outside of Dublin too that they knew about. And I think now I'm one of those people having opportunities outside of the classroom. So now I get to provide some of that too.
I love that. I think there are incredible opportunities, certainly within what we offer in our school district, but
Yeah.
obviously there are so many ways to grow and to pursue things that students are really naturally curious about or just not here for whatever reason. And we
Yeah.
want to make sure they know what those opportunities are and that they can fill those times, whether it's after school hours or in the summers, with
Mhm.
opportunities that they can get really excited
Yeah.
about.
It's super fun.
Yeah, well, I love that now you're a part of those organizations that are
Yeah,
creating those
that's
opportunities.
cool.
That's
Cool
that's
thing.
so cool. Yeah. So I know you've mentioned your college throughout this
Mhm.
interview, but we haven't spent a lot of time talking about Cornell College. It was one that wasn't on my radar. I've heard Cornell, but that's Cornell University. This is Cornell College in
Ours
Iowa,
is
and
12 years older. It's nothing. We were there first, and we had the name first. We did go through a name change, but we still had the name before the university. And yeah, it's one of, I'm not sure how many schools now, but it used to be like one of 7 schools. It might be like one of 5 schools now that does the block plan, which is one course at a time. So for 3.5 weeks, you do one class, morning and afternoon, and you really go in deep with that. When I was there, I think our classes were capped at like 25 to 30 students, and so it's very much like Socratic seminar, which Dublin totally prepared me for, especially the IB English HL, like that was perfect for going into Cornell, I think. And I think also those summer opportunities that I had taking classes at the different universities prepared me for one course at a time. Not everyone does well with one course at a time. It's very fast paced. But if you're kind of a non traditional learner or you have a lot of interest, you would really love Cornell. It's a beautiful campus. I mean, it's just one of the most beautiful places I think I've ever been. So it feels like home. There's just a ton of opportunity. The faculty, it felt a lot like Dublin in a way. Like I got very close with my professors, and I think the structure lends itself to that, so that you can go to their homes for the Thanksgiving break, or you can because the classes are so small, you can go to their office hours, and they actually know who you are already. It's really cool, and it's such a small campus that even after you have that professor, you still see them in the dining hall because maybe they're there for a coffee, or you can swipe them in, or I don't know if they do that anymore, but used to be able to like swipe them and like, hey, have lunch with me. Like I was thinking about this. Like that's the kind of like camaraderie and collaboration that like Cornell College. I'm trying to think what else. The study abroad opportunities were amazing. The first time I ever went out of the country was with Cornell with a study abroad. I went to the Bahamas, which was at the Drache Research Center, which a lot of schools go to. And we went in the winter, so I got away from Iowa winters and was in the Bahamas. I also studied in Guatemala for my Spanish and had amazing professors there. So lots of different opportunities. They're always posting about their abroad experiences, and they're always adding new ones. And the professors are just total nerds and constantly considering like what else can I teach and like doing learning. So I love that. I love that about educators when they're good old nerds, lifelong learners.
well, I love that you found a place that felt like such a great fit for you. And I think it's an overwhelming amount of schools to choose from now. So I think anybody who hears this, though, and obviously there are some things that you mentioned that are extremely unique about Cornell College.
Yep.
And if that sounds like something you might be interested in, then it's one
Yep.
more place to explore. So I'm glad it's on the
Yeah.
radar.
Another thing too, which I don't know if it's as big in Dublin, but for me it was Cornell, I believe, is still a yellow ribbon school. If you have a parent or a relative that has GI benefits with the military, post 9/11 GI benefits, then they can transfer to dependents. And I got a lot of scholarship matched that way. So it was equal from what Cornell contributed and what the government contributed. And then I had my merit scholarships on top of that. So I basically almost got a full ride.
That's amazing. Yes. If you can avoid taking out loans and find a way to
Mhm.
graduate debt free or as close to debt free as
Yep.
possible. That's the name of the game. Well, I love that we get to highlight that school and
Yep.
again, just a new place for someone to consider who might be looking for something a little more quaint and more
Hmm.
non-traditional, but
Totally.
certainly sounds like there's some amazing opportunities there. Well, Liz, I feel like I've learned so much. I think it's amazing that you've accomplished so many different things since you've graduated. You're doing all of this good in all of these different ways. And I love for our students to just hear from the alumni and to hear about what's possible and really just to have people to reach out to if they have questions about this type of work. So really, really appreciate your time and really always like to end these conversations with an opportunity, especially for you as someone who has been a tutor and has mentored and coached students who are getting ready to take on life after high school. What are your final words of wisdom that you can share with these students who are trying to prepare for that?
I think finding yourself is important, being true to yourself, number one. And then on a more academic or professional side of things, I think getting organized. You need to get organized now while you're in high school, using a planner, time management. When are my projects due? When are my tests coming up? How am I going to prepare for these things? So getting organized in those ways are just going to help you with everything in life, college, career, and personal stuff. There's a lot that goes into adulting, and you need those organizational skills.
The more you can focus on that in high school, the less you run into those rude awakening situations in college or whatever you decide to do after high school, right? With so many options available now. So I think that's great words to end on. And again, just really appreciate you making time for this. It was so nice meeting you. And I love that we have alumni like you that are out there doing such amazing things.
Thank you so much. Yeah, feel free to reach out, anyone listening.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Liz. Have a great day.
Take care.
Thanks for listening. Please do not hesitate to reach out with any questions about the many resources we have in Dublin City Schools related to exploring post-secondary options. My email address is patton_kevin@dublinschools.net. I also want to give special thanks to student intern Cam Williams from the DCS Media Marketing Academy. Cam designed the cover art for the show and will be sharing regular updates via social media. Be sure to follow Cam's posts at DCS Pathways Pod on Instagram and TikTok. Hope to see you next week.